everyone, welcome to Archer tutorial class. We will be discussing about some of the very basics of RSA Archer. We will be also discussing about the solutions that RSA Archer provides, and then right from the very basic we will be going into the further details of advanced workflow. And so we'll start from very basics of RSA Archer, and then later at a stage we will be discussing about some more detailed features of RSA Archer, like advanced workflow or the notifications or the DDEs or setting up of DDEs. So we'll be discussing all those features in detail. So this will be a series of tutorials. Right now we are in the first tutorial of RSA Archer, which starts with the very basics of the platform. So before we start on RSA Archer features, let's discuss about RSA Archer first. What is it? So RSA Archer is a GRC, which is governance, risk and compliance tool. It is a single platform with multiple solutions on it. So the platform provides solutions ranging from IT and security risk to enterprise and operational risk, third-party governance, audit management, public sector, which is primarily for US federal agencies, business resiliency and regulatory and corporate compliance solution. So in totality, the platform provides one platform, multiple solutions in order to cater to different business needs arising from the different departments. So if you want to manage your third parties, there is a solution called third party governance. If you want to manage your business resiliency program, if you want to create those business continuity processes, if you want to define your business impact assessment process, the business resiliency is the solution for that. You want to define the compliance program, you want to define the policies and regulations, and then want to assess the compliance against those policy and regulation. Regulatory and corporate compliance is the solution. If you want to deal with your IT security posture, you want to define your incident management, security incident management, or security operations within your organization, or you want to deal with the vulnerabilities that have been identified with your vulnerability scanners, you want to define a process against those vulnerabilities, there's an IT and security risk solution for that. You have your entire enterprise risk and operational risk management solution for your organization, and if you want to do an internal audit, there is a solution for audit management as well. And in a way, all these solutions are interlinked to each other, so the solutions may exchange data. So in case let us say you are doing your enterprise and operational risk management, you want the data on the criticality of certain asset before devising the risk management methodology for that, or before defining your response for that particular risk. You want to have a criticality of that particular asset, so you can link it to your business resiliency, where you are doing a business impact assessment against all your assets. So you know, okay, this is the most critical asset in the organization, and if there is risk sitting against that particular asset, what you need to do or how you need to prioritize your actions on. In the same way, I mean, if there are multiple assets having a set of vulnerabilities, defining your program, prioritizing your efforts based on the criticality of those assets is something you can do. You can do the same exercise with your security incidents operations as well. So how to prioritize your actions against those security incidents which are sitting on your which are targeting your critical assets. So in a way, all these solutions are interlinked to each other, and that provides a central platform for managing all your GRC requirements. Alright, so moving further, how RSA Archer is structured. You can compare RSA Archer structure to Excel sheet, where you have rows and columns. So a very simplistic view of RSA Archer records is you have rows in your Excel sheets, spreadsheet, and you have sub-columns. In Archer, I mean, you want to define the records for the employee base in your organizations. So you'll be having multiple columns for that. You'll be documenting the name of the employee, you'll be documenting the employee ID of the employee, you'll be documenting the location, department, and those same details you will be documenting for multiple employees. So you may have it for John, you may have it for David, you may have it for some other employee, right? So that ways, the columns in RSA Archer is known as field, which are the smallest point unit where you are documenting the data, and a combination of columns is your record. you will, so if you consider a row in the Excel sheet, that will become your record, which is a combination of all those fields. And you may have number of records for an organization. So row 1 is one record, let's say for John. Row 2 is another record, let's say for David, right? So that ways you can have multiple records for different employees in the organizations. Now a combination of multiple records in Archer is called a report, where you actually can set the filters and can filter different records based on certain criteria, and you can define a report out of it. So you have fields, a combination of fields is your record, and then you have multiple records, you define the filter criteria for those records, and then you comes to a report part. Now talking about the access control in Archer, Archer provides different components to it. So you can define the user base of Archer like in any other solution or any other platform. You can define the named user for that particular platform. Same way, Archer allows you to define the named user for Archer space. So whosoever will be a user to the platform, there is a separate record for that particular user in the platform. And a group of users is called a group in Archer. So let's say a set of users working on a same application doing certain set of activities will be defined in a group. So let's say compliance managers, all the people who are responsible for managing the compliance program can be put into a simple in a single group called compliance manager group. So that ways Archer is very much flexible. You can define your own hierarchies and you can define your own set of groups to club the users. Now why you define the groups in Archer? So the third layer is roles. Roles provides the details about the access to the user. So which particular application the user will get the access to, and within application also which particular page the user will get access to is defined by the roles that the user has, right? So instead of giving each and every role to each and every user, you can define the groups and you assign the roles to the group. So you don't have to assign the roles to each and every individual, rather you can define a group, and a set of group will have the same roles. So let's say I assign a group a role, all the users that belongs to that group will have the same role. And the fourth one is record permission. So you can define the access in RSA Archer at an application level, at a page level, at a field level, as well as at the record level. So this is something very critical or very crucial. That's what I want to discuss before going further. What is a record permission? So as I said, you can define or you can restrict the users access to certain records, not giving the access to all users to all the records. So I'll give you a practical scenario. Let's say you apply the leave. Ideally it should be you who should have the access to your applied leave, as well as your manager who is kind of approving or reviewing the leave request should have the access to that particular leave record, right? Nobody else in the organization should have the access to that particular leave application record. So that ways you have to restrict the users, the other users, to get access to that particular record. And leave management, which holds all those records of leave application, should be a common application, right? Anybody in the organization should be able to go ahead and apply the leave. So you cannot restrict the access at application level, because everybody should be able to request a leave into the platform, right? But who will have the access to which leave record will be defined by the record permissions. So you have three kind of record permissions in Archer. The first one is manual record permission. That's where, so let us say me as a user apply the leave and I select my manager's name manually. Okay, I, John, applies a leave and select David as my manager, so that it passes the access to David to come into the record and to approve or reject the leave. That is a manual record permission. Now the second level of record permission is automatic record permission. Within automatic record permissions, what we were doing manual earlier will be automatic based on the defined set of rules. So let's say as an admin I have already defined a rule. Okay, if John applies the leave and the status of the leave moves from draft to applied, David should get the access to the record. And for John it should be the read only now. He should not be able to further modify the record. So that ways I have already defined the set of conditions in the platform. Now whenever John will come in and he will apply the leave, the moment he submits the leave, he will lose the edit access to the record automatically, and David will get the edit access to that particular leave record automatically. So that is automatic record permission. Now the third level of record permission is inherited record permissions. Now inherited record permissions comes into picture when there are two set of applications which are referenced in each other. Giving you an example, now let's say if there is a leave application which is referenced to your HR application as well, which kind of manages the overall leave balance for you in the organization, right? So that whenever you applies the leave, it checks into your database of available leaves and then reduce the number by the leaves applied by you, right? So that ways you can interlink the two applications in Archer. Now inherited record permissions come into picture when one record is getting its record permission from a second record which is in the other application. So let's say we'll take an example of vendor management. Let's say there is a vendor and there is a child vendor to that vendor. If I have the access to parent vendor, I should automatically get access to the child vendors that belongs to that parent vendor, right? So in that sense, my parent vendor and my child vendors are referenced to each other, and the moment I get the access to the parent vendor, automatically platform will provide me the access to the child vendors which are referenced to that particular parent vendor. That is, I am inheriting the record permissions from my parent vendor to the child vendors. So that is on inherited record permissions. Now talking about the access control, Archer provides three level of access controls. The first one is field level access. So as I said, your application has multiple fields to document the data, right? To gather the data. As I showcased, name, location, department for the employee database, right? Those are the fields. Now you may want to restrict the access of a field to different set of users. Let us say if I am applying the leave, I should not have the access to the approved yes no button, right? Yes no field. That is what the approver will have the access to, right? So I want to restrict my access to the submit field but not to the approved field, right? So that way is you want to restrict the access to field level. The second level is record level. So if I am applying the leave, that particular leave record should have the access, I should have the access, and my manager who is kind of approving the access, the leave should have the access, or anyone whosoever is a part of that particular workflow should have the access. Nobody else should have the access, right? So that is record level access. And the third one is application level access. So if I am managing the vendors, I should not have the access for internal audit, right? So that is managing the access at applications level. So those are the three level of access that Archer talks about, and we'll be discussing all these access controls in detail in the further tutorials. For now, that's it from my side. Please like the video and subscribe the channel for more tutorials on RSA Archer. Thank you.